Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, hear about efforts to improve Arizona's international export trade. Find out why Arizona is not in the top 10 states for job creation and get an update on the local real estate market. Those stories next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. The Phoenix Committee on Foreign Relations recently held its 10th annual International State of the State. Panelists discuss a variety of trade-related issues, including numbers that show Arizona's international trade in decline while the U.S. rate is increasing. We spoke with Keith Galbut, the chairman of the Phoenix Committee on Foreign Relations, and Stephen Beschloss, an award-winning writer, journalist, and filmmaker. Good to have you all here. Thanks for joining us.
Good to be with you.
Arizona's place in international trade, where are we?
Well, we have a lot of work to do. We've been making progress over the years, and of course Arizona has a long history of strong international trading relationships, but we are falling behind, and there's a lot more work to do for us to maintain par and really get ahead. For example,
yes.
In the Metro Phoenix area, which is the 6th largest city in the country, ranks 27th as it relates to export trade. So there's a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, I mean, that's just jump in. I mean, that's below San Antonio. It's below San Diego. It's below El Paso. It's below Greenville, South Carolina, and Peoria, Illinois. I mean, it just underscores the fact that Arizona has been overly dependent on tourism and real estate and the kind of things that don't actually drive growth for the state.
Is that the reason, the dependence on other things other than exporting out of the country?
Well, I think historically there has been an overdependence on a small number of industries to drive Arizona's progress, and it's clear that that has to change. I mean, if you go back to 2008, we really haven't even gotten back to that level since the Great Recession. We're still trying to get back to where we were then, and at a national level, the country is actually at a record high in terms of its overall exports.
And I was going to say, Ted, I think as well, we often in Arizona have short memories as it relates to recessions. We, during the recessionary period, think about taking action steps towards diversifying our economy. But as the recession generally closes and we start to lift out of it, we forget. And one of the problems with, of course, the Great Recession is that this period has been much longer than normal. And so it's put a punctuation on the need for us to diversify our economy more broadly.
You mentioned that Arizona has a rich history as far as international trade is concerned. What happened? What were we doing then that we may not be doing now? What are other states, the Greenville, South Carolinas, for goodness, what are they doing that we are not doing now?
So my view is that there's a greater level of collaboration among the private sector and public sector leadership, all aimed in a very direct and specific way at enhancing international trade. There needs to be a much greater level of enthusiasm because it really helps to create jobs and it really helps us to advance our community and to even out these ups and downs that we experience during recessionary and expansionary times.
More enthusiasm. I mean, we have another country right at our doorstep here. Why is there not more enthusiasm?
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, Mexico represents an extraordinary asset for Arizona's growth. I mean, it already represents 1/3 of our total exports, even a little bit more than that. And if you look at what's happening in Mexico, I mean, you have major automakers from around the world that are spending billions of dollars investing in the growth of of their industries. They recognize opportunities that exist there, and and we're still just kind of getting there. I mean, there's been a bump because you have the commitment on the part of the city of Phoenix and others to open an office in Mexico City, and then you have Mexico now committing to opening an office in Phoenix. So these things, they help, they start to move the needle, but as Keith was saying, it's so important to be able to have groups that are focused on kind of global development who are giving people the tools that they need to do more exporting.
What are some of those tools? What should be happening out there?
Well, I think on the theme of what is happening and how can things get better, in the last 10 years, there's been a very substantial effort put in play and an enhanced level of leadership to further international business. The efforts of the Greater Phoenix Economic Council, GPEC, the Commerce Authority, groups like the Global Chamber, led by Doug Brunke, and regional groups focusing on Arizona, for example, and Canadian growth led by Glenn Williamson are very, very helpful for advancing those relationships. And so there is really a momentum. And in my view, that momentum is really important because it gets people together to talk about opportunities, and then people seize upon those opportunities and expand.
And by the way, that's why the Phoenix Committee on Foreign Relations has sort of, in the last few years, has really started to focus more on how do you kind of bring people together to have those conversations, not only to talk about kind of general global issues, but to really dig in and focus on, what are the ways that we can begin to move the needle. And, and partly it's a matter of building relationships. I mean, it sounds like maybe a light thing to say, but if you want to start doing business in Malaysia, you know what, it helps if somebody can give you an introduction. So it's data, knowing how to go to those markets, and then it's being able to have the kind of introductions that allows you to function there successfully.
87% of exports, Arizona exports, are from small and medium-sized firms. Is that a good thing? Is that a healthy thing?
Well, I think it's a great thing, and I also think it's what Arizona is. Phoenix has always been about entrepreneurism. We're not a major headquarters for many large companies and even regional headquarters, but we have a tremendous number of small and medium-sized enterprises who are entrepreneurial, who are interested in expanding, and so being that is in fact the statistic that 87% are from small and medium-sized companies, we should really be focusing on that segment of the market to really expand. This correlates to employment as well. Trade-related employment grows at 4 times the average of non-trade related employment. So when we think about all the small and medium-sized businesses that are within our community, if we can turbocharge that effort, it can make a big difference.
And again, aerospace, computer electronics, top merchandise export, computer stuff, transportation equipment was number 2, minerals and ores number 3. Is that a nice portfolio, or could we get a little more diversified?
Well, diversification is key to this whole thing. I mean, that's the whole conversation really, which is not being dependent on a few things that a company that semiconductors may be up in one year and then they may be down the next year. So same thing with aerospace and military. So what we're right now saying, if you have 7,000 businesses, which is that 87.5% that are operating outside of Arizona, that are recognizing the opportunities, that's great, but the question is, how do you get them to do more? How do you get them to focus on markets that they haven't looked at and really make a more significant commitment to it?
And in large part, that's what we're working on doing at this coming Monday at the International State of the State. This is our 10th annual State of the State, and we are focusing on international trade, bringing together the minds of the education. Larry Penley is going to be moderating the panel, president of Thunderbird, as well as government, Matt Salmon, Representative Salmon, as well as representatives from the Chamber of Commerce and from the United Kingdom. The Consul General is going to be there as well to try to bridge this connectivity to turbocharge these needs.
We've got about a minute left here. I'm an elected official. Tell me why I should really pay attention to this, why this is a big deal.
Well, my initial answer and most important, I think, view is it's about jobs. It's about increasing our economy and doing it in a very healthy way to create opportunities that currently don't exist or that we currently don't pursue. And if we are able to really focus on that, it can make a big difference.
ASU's W.P. Carey School of Business is out with a new report on the top 10 cities and states for job growth. We found out how Arizona fared in the research from ASU economist Dennis Hoffman. Good to see you again.
Great to be here, Ted.
This research, job growth numbers, what, first 3 quarters, something along those lines?
Right. First of all, a little plug. This is Lee McFeeder's effort at the university, and Lee couldn't be here tonight. I've worked with him on it to some degree, but I invite people to go to this website, and it's very simple. W.P. Carey, all one word, no dots, no nothing. Job growth, all one word. Throw those in any kind of search engine, and this website will come up. It'll allow you to rank states and major cities on all sorts of different types of job creation metrics.
And what are some of those metrics?
Well, non-farm jobs, that's the showcase job number. But you can also look at goods producing, service producing jobs, manufacturing jobs, construction jobs, government, healthcare, the whole gamut. So I'm happy to talk about some of those at least tonight.
Well, let's talk about the rankings in general.
Right.
What were some of the stronger areas, stronger cities, and what were some of the areas that you thought might have been stronger but weren't?
Well, the strong, no surprise in some degree, North Dakota, Texas, driven by oil and minerals. Nevada's back in the mix after a lot of years of being out of it. But the interesting thing to me is Utah, Oregon, Colorado, California, Washington are all ahead of us. New Mexico, our neighbor, of course, is down below us. But at this point in the business cycle, Ted, almost all of the economists that I know were forecasting more robust job growth out of Arizona than what we are seeing. And so it's unfair to say that it's, the nation is in the doldrums. I mean, we would be a very different state, I think, today if we were growing jobs in the high 2 percentage points or 3 percentage points like many of our western neighbors are.
Indeed, I saw Nevada, Utah, Colorado, all three of those in the top 10. They're very close by. Also saw that Florida and Texas did well. The West Coast in general did well.
Yes.
What do we make of all that?
Well, regional economists like to point toward the drivers of job growth and drivers of economic growth. We talk about the base industries in the state, kind of the goods producing, export oriented industries. And the fascinating thing, if you look at goods producing for Arizona, we're not 14th, we're 47th in the nation. We're near the bottom in terms of, we don't make things to ship out of this state. Part of that is construction. We're anemic in construction as well. And interestingly, during our heyday, you can look at goods producing. You can also look at history on this website too, by the way. You can pull up the last 20, 30 years and you can see how the rankings looked in particular years. And you will find that during the heyday of job growth in this state, we did okay in goods producing. And part of that is construction and, our ability to manufacture aerospace and defense and electronics manufacturing, and all of that is fragile right now.
I did notice that Arizona was number 3 in healthcare job growth,
yes,
number 5 in financial activity
yes.
jobs. So there are
Those
some
are the
bright spots.
Those are the bright spots. Yes, indeed. So, I think it's fair to think of financial services as an export-oriented business. We're exporting services there.
Sure.
So that is a good thing. I think that is definitely a bright spot. But the interesting thing to me is to think about the fact that at this point of the construction and growth cycle, we're losing construction jobs. And people might argue that, hey, that must be the case around the nation. Nevada and Florida are creating jobs in construction at 11% year over year. Utah, 8.7%. Colorado, almost 6%. California, almost 6%. There are states that are actually generating construction jobs, and that's a sign, of course, of domestic net immigration or immigration or population growth in general, and or the fact that the youth in these states are beginning to buy homes, or they're moving into apartments. This could be multifamily as well. And we have some things. You look around this city, you see some growth areas, but the numbers suggest just not as fast as some of our neighbors.
Okay, we see the no income taxes crowd here with Florida and Texas. We see
Right.
the big income tax crowd here with areas along the West Coast. So I don't know what kind of sense you can make of that. How do you look at these numbers and these states and say, here's what Arizona should be doing?
Okay, so there's no one fiscal recipe from these data. I mean, Colorado, Utah, both have individual income taxes. Oregon is dominated by individual income tax. They're actually growing faster than Washington, that has no individual income tax. And look, taxes on the finest of margins matter, but they can't swamp some of these basics. And so what's holding us back? I would argue that our growth historically may have been fueled, say, by my generation, attracted by the population growth magnetism of an Arizona. It was very attractive over the last 3-4 decades to move here, to come, to prosper, to grow, land of opportunity. Unfortunately, it must not be seen quite that way by
was-
today's generation.
I was going to ask that. Are young people still seeing this as a land? I mean, Arizona, it was almost a cliche. You came out here, you could reinvent yourself, you could start a new life,
Right.
you could do all sorts. Are people just not seeing Arizona in that light?
Well, look, I think it'd be unfair for the two of us to just, start in with the bash of the state. Oh, woe is us, we're all down. I think that there are fewer opportunities, and there's images that are being emitted by the state, and some of these are really subtle. I've been here 36 years. We've always had dust storms in this state, but only recently do people take videos of them
Of the haboobs.
and put them
Yes.
out on international media. To the people out east, that looks like the Dust Bowl of the 30s, when in fact, as you well know, all it does is delay our barbecue by about 30 minutes.
All right, listen, before you go, we got about 30 seconds left here. Are we looking at a new normal? Are we looking at new paradigms here?
Well, I was unwilling to adopt that premise 2 years ago, and frankly, my forecasts were wrong. I had us in the Utah-Colorado range right now, 3% job growth and above, because I couldn't be convinced that we couldn't recover here. But now I'm of the belief that I've got to see it before I can believe it. And so what we need to do is develop a strategy to market the state, market it on its positive attributes, and there are a ton. We've got a tremendous potential, I think, in this state, but we've also got to market and develop and retain talented young people. We've got to produce them and then retain them. In order to retain them, there's got to be great job opportunities here.
Yeah.
And I fear that we're losing too many.
Well, it's a very interesting study. And again, W.P. Carey, just look W.P. Carey job growth, Google it and you'll find it.
Right, and job growth, all one word. I bet if you put in job growth, all one word, that's
right
probably all you need.
All right, Dennis, good to see you again. Thanks for
Very
joining us.
good, thanks.
Phoenix's housing market remains sluggish with supply and demand at relatively low levels. Why is this going on, and when will the market pick back up? For answers, we turn to economist Elliot Pollack of the Elliott D. Pollack and Company. Good to have you. Good to see you again.
Nice to be here.
Give us an overview, 10,000-foot view. What's going on in the market?
The market is weak. We got down to about 6,800 units, down from 63,000, so we lost almost 90% of the market. And then it jumped to about 12,000 units, and then it died. It's back to about 11,000 units. No real pickup in demand, and there's several reasons for this. The first one is that nobody's showing up, that fewer people are moving nationally, and of those people moving, fewer are moving to Arizona at the moment. And so without population flow, you really don't need a lot of new housing. And what used to happen in past cycles is we'd have a very low unemployment rate, you'd start to create jobs, and that would suck in people from the outside. They all bring their own demand for goods and services. They need housing, they need clothes, they need cars, they need food. And so that would ramp up the number of jobs, and that would bring in even more people. We're now at about 40% of what we would normally be in population growth, so we're not getting the spur in population growth that we normally get.
Is that in migration? Is that somewhat of a canary in the coal mine for economic conditions?
Well, it certainly is a canary in the coal mine for economic conditions nationally. In other words, people still haven't gotten over what happened in 8 through 10. They simply are still nervous. They're not willing to move, but there are reasons they're not moving. Nearly a third of the people in this country have less than 20% equity in their homes, which means they can't sell, because if you need at least 20% equity you sell your house, you pay the closing costs, you need a down payment, you need money to move, and without a reasonable amount of equity, that's not happening. So there's a lot of people, about a third of the housing market really isn't there. Then there's people in the penalty box, about 5 million nationally and about 200,000 in Arizona, that were foreclosed on between 8 and 12. They can't get back in really till 16 or 17, and even then they might decide, we don't really want to. What happened there is these people didn't go to apartments. If you lost your house, about 90% of them simply moved down the block to a rental. Why? Because if you have 2 kids and a dog, you're not living in an apartment. You can stay in the same school district. You can have the same friends. So that takes another 200,000 people out of the game, and that doesn't even include short sale people who really can't get back in the market right away. And so there's a lot of the market that appears to be there that simply is neutered at this point in time.
Will it be, when this glut of folks who are in the penalty box, when they return in 16, 17, 18, could there possibly be a shortage of homes?
There will likely be a big pickup in housing, yes. Now the question is how many of them decide, you know what, I don't want to be in a home I own, I like being in a home I rent. But for those people, it's musical chairs. Let me give you an example, all right? I'm in this house and I rent it, okay?
Yes.
I decide I'm going to buy this house. There's no change in inventory because I'm simply going here. This house is now back on the market. So those people will not cause a shortage of housing. What will cause a shortage of housing is millennials deciding to buy, which at some point they will. Right now, about 33% of them are living home with mommy and daddy. That isn't going to last forever because they don't want to be there any more than their parents want them to be there. They simply can't launch because they can't get a good job. They're delaying marriage, and if you delay marriage, you delay having kids. If you delay having kids, you delay demand for housing. That will change over time. There's no factor I'm going to discuss with you that doesn't change over time. The problem is nobody knows for sure exactly when.
What about investors? What about those foreclosures? Are there investors used to be all over this place, not anymore?
No, they're not over this place essentially because the good deals in housing are gone. Housing prices are up substantially from the bottom, and that's mainly because the bottom tier, the foreclosures, were really giveaways, and now they're gone. Foreclosures are a little above normal, but they're way down from where they were and headed towards normal very quickly. So I don't think that's an issue. The real issue, the main issue, I think, is financing. You have a smaller market, but it's financing. If you are an independent contractor, if you're you own your own business, if you're an affluent retiree, try to get a loan. You don't fit in a particular box, so you're not going to get a loan. What has happened is the government has locked the barn door after the horse is gone. And one of the things they did is called a putback. And that is they have the right for any reason to put back a loan to you as the guy who made the loan, and for any reason. And they're doing it for loans that were made 10 years ago, claiming, well, it wasn't underwritten properly. Nobody knows what's going to happen 10 years from now. The putback should be for 2 or 3 years, and you should be able to correct paperwork errors, because they're also putting back loans that are old just for paperwork errors. There was no fraud involved. Somebody forgot a signature. Somebody forgot to notarize something. That will change. I think there's going to be enough pressure, so that will change. When financing becomes more normalized, then things will get better fairly quickly. Will it get back to 30,000 units? Not at any time soon.
And this brings me back to expectations here. You mentioned, when financing gets better, things will get better. Is apple oranges here? I mean,
well, absolutely. Because you need the construction employment to essentially start the wheel rolling, getting more people here. The major difference between this cycle and past cycles is there has essentially been no recovery in construction employment. That will change when there's more housing and there's more office buildings and there's more apartments and so on.
Well, are there going to be more apartments? There are apartments on every corner of the block. Are we going to see a glut of apartments here pretty soon?
No, I think demographically things couldn't be better for apartments. There'll be demand, a lot of demand for apartments at least for the next decade. And that's because the millennials are actually, as a generation, are as big as the post-war baby boom. So there'll just be huge demand for kids who first go to apartments and then have delayed marriage, so they'll be in apartments longer, and then will eventually buy a house. What's happening in Phoenix is a large number of the apartments are very expensive apartments along Scottsdale Road, near Scottsdale and Camelback, and all the way up towards Frank Lloyd Wright, some in Chandler, and they're very expensive. The stuff that's being built that's reasonable, maybe $1.50 a square foot, that'll absorb overnight, I'm positive, because there's so much demand.
And that'll stay absorbed.
Yes, and I think that it's going to be difficult for the whole market to become a glut for a long time because there's so much basic underlying demand.
So basically, expectations, got to temper them a little bit and just be patient and wait for the folks from the penalty box to get back on the ice.
Yes, and nobody's exactly sure how quickly they'll come back, but they are likely to come back.
All right. Elliot, good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And that is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening.
If you have comments about Arizona Horizon, please contact us at one of the addresses on your screen. Your comments may be used on a future edition of Arizona Horizon. Thank you. Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of 8, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.